Hey everyone, this is Afrodo. Well, I guess now. I guess I'm still Afrodo reviews, even doing these booktube challenges. But you make it very hard to think. But it has been a while since I've done one, and having been recently tagged in one, I figured, you know what? Let's do a booktube tag, which is probably where my confusion's coming from. But I was recently tagged by T.A. Summers in the Booktube tag Clean Slate. And you know what? Like her, I have not done a Booktube tag in a very long time. I think the last one I did was the mid-year freakout tag of last year. This is partially due to schedule issues, and I just haven't been able to be as active on the community as I wanted to lately. But I'm trying to be out there, trying to do more creative things this year. But I don't want to forget what I started doing. And honestly, I want to do the Booktube tag. So, I'm going to go ahead and thank T.A. Summers for tagging me. And anyone who is a part of my channel but not part of hers, I would recommend you checking her out. Count that as part of my answer to one of the questions up ahead. But without further ado, I guess let's go ahead and just get into these tags. So, the first question of the Clean Slate Challenge is... Clean Slate Tag, I should say, not challenge. But first one is, are there any genres that I want to read more or less of in 2025? Truth be told, no. I'm pretty content with where my genre reading is currently at, and admittedly, it's a much more eclectic reading in terms of genres, because I don't really have I gotta read that. I just kind of pick up whatever's most interesting to me at the time. Now, most of the time, as anyone who's watching my channel can tell you, that's typically fantasy or sci-fi works. And those are the things that I personally enjoy reading the most. But that being said, I don't really have any particular genre that I dislike to the point I would read less of it, but I also don't have any that I haven't read enough of. I guess if I had one thing I could say, it's maybe classical works. But I don't know if that really counts as a genre and more as a time period era of reading. That's all I really have to say for that one. So question number 2. Are there any books that I have read recently that have changed or challenged some of my own philosophies or beliefs? Recently. I guess it defines how we're defining recently. But for the most part, no. I mean... Yeah, not really. There's really none that I've read that have really challenged anything I've held dear. I've read some things that don't have necessarily my point of view. As you guys saw me freaking out on The Last of Us ripoff series, that definitely, I get the feeling me and that author would not agree on worldviews. But overall, no, I can't say I've read anything that has changed or challenged some of my philosophies or beliefs in life. Question number 3. Who would I recommend for a newbie to watch? See, this is one of those things where it's like, I have a lot of ideas, but it would really depend on what you're into. For example, I got the bigger guys that I can always recommend. I would recommend that if you like book reviews, check out the big guys too. Crimson Rogue, Dominic Noble, sorry, she's got that wide-eye look. Tolo, you can read James. You can check out James Tolo's too, but his is more of a mixed bag, I think, between the other two I mentioned. If you want more of a newbie channels, I got a couple of those I can recommend. Although, no, it's not fair for me to say. I would say smaller channels. Sadly, one of the downsides is a lot of the smaller channels I would have recommended in the past either aren't uploading anymore, or yeah. But a few off the top of my head is, one I've always recommended is David's Book Reviews. He tends to do more horror-themed books, and overall, he's a pretty nice, stable guy in the community. Another I would recommend is, as I mentioned at the start, T.A. Summers. She's the one who tagged me in this tag. As you can tell, I'm pretty tongue-tied today. And, I've always really liked her reviews. Admittedly, I have been reading a lot of her Goodreads reviews as well, and I do know she's been doing more like playthroughs. She's currently doing a Persona 3 playthrough on her channel, which, as a big fan of the Persona franchise, I can't complain about. I also have someone I would recommend called Emily Reads Books. She doesn't upload as often as some of the other people I've mentioned so far. Well, I guess Crimson Rogue doesn't really count since he uploads like every couple months. But she's... You know, you're making it hard to think when you're over here being weird. She uploads more like talking point essays on her channel. She does do book reviews. She's a very nice woman here. And I would recommend checking her out if you're interested. Apart from that, I don't really have much else to do. You can obviously consider these also an answer to my question 11, who would I tag in this? Admittedly, I'm not probably going to skip that one because, again, I've been out of the loop when it comes to Booktube tags for long enough that I don't know who's been tagged and who's already done all this. So if I have mentioned you and you've already done it, my apologies, I didn't know. Let's go ahead and move on to question number 4. Do I have a book bucket list? Yeah, I do. I have some books that I definitely want to read before I stop reading or, die. A lot of them are classical works, stuff like... I'm not gonna do this video with me making eye contact with that part of you. But anyways, classical works like, I gotta eventually sit down and read through the full Epic of Gilgamesh. I want to read through the Count of Monte Cristo. Again, tongue-tied here today. Got all the classics, the Pride and Prejudice, the Wuthering Heights, all that. A couple I want to read that's more, I would say, niche compared to others is one of the biggest things I've wanted to get my hands on is the novelization of the Pitch Black movie. I've heard that it's pretty similar to the novelization of the Revenge of the Sith movie, in that it's like the book, but it is so much more chock full of information that it almost reads like a different thing, a much more realized thing. I know one of the things that I know was mentioned in it is it explains why the creatures that only come out at night to eat people, how they work much more clearly. But apart from that, if I had one book bucket list, it would be I gotta finish all the books I do own, but I can't stop myself from buying books, so that's a ever-evolving challenge. So let's go ahead and move on to question number 5. What is it about Booktube that has surprised me the most? Honestly, just how welcoming the community is. Overall, you always see, like, on YouTube, all these big dramas happening, the YouTubers feuding with each other and all that. But for the most part, Booktube always seems relatively drama-free. It always seems rather welcoming to newcomers, helpful, accepting of whatever someone wants to do in it. I've never really got the feeling that anyone's unwelcome in Booktube. So, yeah, I think that's the thing that surprised me most about Booktube. Although I guess saying surprising is a little unfair. I always knew Booktube was a welcoming community, but just how welcoming it is, I guess, is surprising. Question number 6. What are some of my goals that don't have to be related to YouTube? Or, yeah, I guess YouTube would count. YouTube, Booktube. Well, obviously one of my main goals for Booktube is I do eventually want to reach 1,000 subscribers and get the channel monetized. I'm not going to stop making videos if it don't get there, but I do want to be able to do that. I do really enjoy making these videos, and my work is unfortunately interfering with that often enough that there are times where I just sit here and I wish I could just do more things, but I can't because my work has driven me to that point. Most of the time this happens in the, holiday months because I gotta do holiday stuff. So I just don't have the energy or time to sit down and read books, write reviews of them, and then record them and edit them. Because I'm basically a one-man show here. But apart from that, one of my goals is I do eventually want to publish one of my own works. I got a fantasy setting that I really want to publish things in, and unfortunately, due to my indecisiveness, I keep jumping back and forth on, what's the first entry I'm going to put in that world. I have one that I definitely want to do. That's the one I want to do a lot. but I'm debating with myself if that's a good way to start the world. Which it goes back and forth every so often, like, oh yeah, it's a great one. I'm like, oh no, well, would these things work as well if I hadn't already established what is considered the status quo of this world first? I have it pretty fleshed out. I have the 4 main empires of that world considered. I have a bunch of smaller communities considered. I have all the species of the world. I have a few of the most important people in that world, so on, so on. It's just actually getting it out there that's getting to me. In addition to that, I do have other works in other worlds. You know, I got an urban fantasy vampire story. I got, you know, my sci-fi setting, you know, and, you know, having ADHD is wonderful because, you know, sometimes I can sit down and crank out 150 pages in a week. Too bad it's for a Dragon Age fan fiction that I won't ever publish, all because I got that spite hyper-focus after playing the Veilguard games. So let's go ahead and move on to question number 8. Would I rather have my life written by my favorite author or be portrayed in a movie by my favorite actor/actress? So I'll be honest with you. My favorite actor and actress do not look like me. So it would be hilarious to see them portraying me, a 6'3", almost 300-pound man, when they are not that. But honestly, if I had to choose, I would definitely choose to have my life written by my favorite author. I mean, I'm a book guy. Obviously, books are going to be the way I'm going. While you let me speak in my video. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with right now. Off camera. So, question number 8. Oh, I guess I've mixed up question 7 and question 8, so. Question number 8. If I could meet, dead or alive, any writer, artist, or musician, who would they be? Stan Lee. Honestly, I really wanted to meet Stan Lee even before he died. And, you know, after he died, it was a great tragedy. But this is a guy I've really always wanted to meet. That's another thing I've worked on. It's got a whole superhero universe plotted out. But unfortunately, I don't have the art skills for that. So that's not even that's not a feasible one right now. But Stan Lee has always been one of those artists I really wanted to meet. He seemed like such a great guy. He seemed like someone who would just be really fun to talk to every so often. He seemed to have such an earnest joy in all of his creations and the stories that are being told about them even long after he's not writing for them anymore. He's the kind of older guy I aspire to be, you know, without all the elder abuse, unfortunately. I made myself sad. So let's go ahead and move on to question number 9. What are some challenges I've overcome or would still like to improve in regards to my channel? Still consistency. Now, this isn't partially because of work, but there are some times where, again, the ADHD hyperfocus just doesn't work with me. And I have to struggle to get through certain things in order to be able to do them on my channel. Overall, though, I am pretty content in terms of what I can do. I mean, obviously, I can continue to expand, continue to get better. There's no perfect here. I do still want to keep getting better as a booktuber. But I do think I'm pretty good. I've gotten over a lot of my initial anxiety. One of the things I love talking about when I get on here and I get asked this question is, if you pay attention to the very first video, Dorothy Must Die, that I ever published, I'm so tense and uneasy. And then I watch my newest stuff and I can just talk to you for an hour about nothing. And it just comes out freely now, as opposed to the whole Dorothy Must Die was a book. So, yeah. So question number 10. What advice would I give someone who is thinking about deleting their YouTube channel? Well, this largely depends on why you're deleting it. If you're deleting it because social media is becoming too much from you, you want to step back, just take a break, read because you want to enjoy it and not have it feel like work, that kind of thing, yeah, go ahead. No, you should do that. If you honestly feel that's going to help you, go ahead and step back from the channel. I wouldn't necessarily recommend deleting it under really any circumstance. I think even if you want to step away from the channel, I would recommend leaving it up forever. I would recommend leaving it up. I don't recommend deleting things, because you never know when someone's gonna come by and watch a video and think, oh wow, this is great. I've had videos that have been out for years, and I thought they were just big flops, and then out of the blue, a whole bunch of people start watching them, and I get comments saying, oh, thank God, someone talked about this book. I thought I was the only one who read it. Or, oh my God, this review is so what I want to do. And it always makes me feel warm inside just seeing people interact with my content, connect with my content. And, they're not always positive views, but they do happen every so often, and I do like them. That's actually how one of the most viewed videos on my channel, the second now, because my marked video shot up, but my second most viewed video on this channel was actually the third video I ever published on this channel, and it was Magic Kingdom for sale. And for the longest time, that thing sat at like 19 views, and then just out of nowhere, it just started shooting up, and I started getting more and more people talking about it. It was a video I personally thought was bad. The audio quality is terrible. This was back in the days before I was really comfortable editing, comfortable on camera. I hadn't quite refined how I talk about books. Overall, there's just a lot about that review that I would look at today and be like, ugh. But so many people love that review, I can't help but love it in turn. Now, if you're thinking about deleting your channel because you're not getting the views you want, you're not getting the recognition you want famous yet, you aren't making money on the YouTube monetization system, you're not doing any of that, personally, I would recommend taking a step back and just realizing that ultimately you should be making videos for yourself first. You need to be making, when you're on YouTube, it's always important to remember that the average YouTuber is not going to explode up to 1 million subscribers in the first year. In fact, I believe a statistic puts it out that 90% of YouTubers don't even get to 1,000 subscribers. And that's a bit disheartening of a statistic, which is why it's very important that when you start this channel, when you do this channel, to just remember that you're doing it for you. It shouldn't matter that you're only at 300 subscribers. It should matter that you enjoy what you're putting out. It should matter that this is the kind of content that you would watch if you weren't making it. Or even if you do make it. It's the kind of stuff that you think you're proud is out there, even if somebody doesn't love it. So ultimately, those are the advices I would give when it comes to whether or not you delete your YouTube channel. And, take that for what it's worth from someone who is only at 328 as of the time I record this video. So that's really all I gotta say. Like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and skip the 11th since I kind of just combined that into the third one. And I don't know very many booktubers to recommend this tag to that either haven't already done it, because I've been out of the loop for so long. But with that being said, yeah, I want to really thank T.A. Summers for tagging me. This is a nice throwback to finally do one of these tag challenges again. And I'm thankful that you all watched this. Just remember, with every book comes an adventure. And every adventure is worth having. Even the bad ones. See you later, everyone.